Welcome back to Sky News Today. Well, in the past few minutes, the Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, has been speaking about the sale of Royal Mail to a Czech billionaire, Daniel Kretinsky, which we were, of course, covering earlier in the show. Let's have a listen to the take of the Business Secretary.
Well, it'll be shareholders who approve this deal or not, but the agreement that we have reached means if that does go ahead, this would be a good deal for the UK, be a good deal for the people who work for Royal Mail, and of course it'd be a good deal for the customers. It actually strengthens the protections that we have, increases what was in place following the privatisation of Royal Mail with a golden share for the UK government covering things like the business being headquartered in the UK and paying tax here. So it's for shareholders to approve the deal or not, but if it does go ahead, we have negotiated something which secures the long-term future of Royal Mail and gives it the fresh start that we need.
You had the opportunity to block the deal on national security grounds, but you decided not to, and why not?
The investment screening process on national security grounds is a separate process to the deal that we have agreed. The Cabinet Office will make a ruling on that in due course. But what is key here is, despite Royal Mail being an entirely privatised business, we have secured through the UK government's negotiating team stronger protections than were in place when we said as a government that we would work with the private sector to improve public services, to improve investment, the conditions for the economy in the UK. This is what we mean by approaching this in the right way. If this takeover goes ahead, we're going to be in a stronger position than we otherwise would have been.
You've said you're pragmatic about the future of the USO. What does that mean? Could it go after 5 years? And did you press Mr. Kretinsky on his commitments?
Well, the universal service obligation is really important. We're committed to it, as is EP Group, if there is the takeover approved. Now, of course, we recognise, first of all, this is actually for Ofcom in terms of the ruling that would take place as to what that USO should be. And I think all parties are pragmatic and understand that the letter market has declined a lot in recent years, and you've got to make sure that USO reflects the current market demand for that product. But a USO is a fundamental part of this agreement and the business's plans for the future.
What assurances do the public have that Royal Mail will continue to deliver letters 6 days a week at a universal price beyond the 5 years that EP Group have committed to?
Well, look, reform of the USO is not something that's related in a sense to this takeover. That is about how Ofcom will decide what are the right conditions in order for the USO. In its current form, obviously it reflects a letter market where many millions of more letters were being sent every day. And lots of other countries, nearly every country actually, has adjusted that in some way. There's a process underway to decide that, but that in itself is not connected to this takeover.
Will stamps go up?
Well, the government doesn't set the price of stamps. Nothing will change in terms of the regulatory environment for stamps. Again, the regulator has some powers over the cost of second-class products, but that's not something that's going to change as a result of this takeover if it goes ahead. And as I say, the government, as it stands, doesn't have powers in those areas.
Okay. And one last question, which is actually on China. Is the government being too naive in its rush to see Chinese links and not worrying enough about security?
No, I would refute that entirely. We believe that the golden era of the Cameron-Osborne years was naive. We think that kind of special relationship they were seeking didn't take into account those factors. But we are seeking a relationship with a country that is a significant trading partner of the UK. Trade is actually slightly down between the UK and China this year, so it's not being increased at the expense of any national security concerns. But if you look at the UK's official engagement with China in the last few years, the UK is a huge outlier in not being engaged at all at an official level. Nearly every other country in the world of our size, our status, has those formal dialogues, and that is all we're seeking to do, to try and recognise that, look, there are areas where we do have to challenge China, but there are some other areas, particularly in trade, that we can cooperate, and that is the government's approach, to challenge where necessary, to cooperate where we can, and I think that is the right pragmatic position to take.